It's on. So he's saying, number one, our way is just fine. Thank you very much. We do like to tinker and we will keep tinkering. And two, you do it our way too. The best part of the article. The best part of the article.
Yeah. What up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Feige looks like he found his mojo. Reminds me of Austin Powers.
I've lost my mojo.
He's got it back. Now that he has that little sense of competition, because the other guy knows everything you've done and how you've done it, and is talking about all those things. I'm sure you don't like it. James Gunn is the new kid on the block, sort of. And I think this is going to spawn the debate or reignite it to where the debate is a heated one because of products that they have put out now going forward. Superman, Fantastic Four, like you said, they'll always be linked. This is the beginning.
I was trying to think of the lines, and I feel like from James Gunn's side, it is the Darth Vader. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. That's James Gunn's perspective. Kevin Feige's perspective is like Martin Riggs at the end of Lethal Weapon. You want a shot at the title? That's Kevin Feige's perspective on this. Right? Am I wrong? That's kind of what it feels like. That's what it feels like.
Friendly competition.
And so Kevin's been on the press circuit. Kevin Feige's been on the press circuit. I am going to focus on interviews in Variety and Hollywood Reporter. He's been everywhere, but I'm going to focus on quotes from these articles because I think they encapsulate the most subjects that we want to cover. So, and I think he really directly responds to James Gunn in a couple of areas in a professional way because they are friends. But he definitely goes back at him on a few points about how to make these movies and what makes them successful. I also think Kevin isn't 100% honest about a few things, and I want to get your temperature check on how much we're getting shoveled in our direction on at least one major point. But I think the Variety article sets the scene of the interview with Kevin sitting there. And then on the opposite wall of the room is something that's covered up and locked. And so the Variety's like, what's that? And he said, well, that's the next 7 years of the MCU. And he's like, usually it's 5 years. He's like, but we're out to 2032 now. So he just sort of teases that that's underneath the board in the office and they can't see it. He starts with the mea culpa that we've been hearing. Too much product, dilution of the brand. And he gives you a couple numbers, which I thought were interesting. He said, quote, we produced 50 hours of story between 2007, so Iron Man 1, and 2019, Avengers Endgame. In the last 6 years since Endgame, we've produced over 100 hours of story in half the time. And that's too much, end quote. The actual number, by the way, is 127. So 50 hours in 13 years became 127 hours in 6 years. That is the definition of brand dilution. So he talks about what they meant to do after Endgame versus what wound up happening, which I think is really interesting because it lets us know, if you go back to the origins of the Nerd Gen Report, back when we were kind of excited about the early days post Endgame, we actually talked about exactly what Kevin's saying. He said after Endgame, the plan was to enter the company into a period of, quote, experimentation and evolution. Because I've always thought if you take success and don't experiment with it and don't take risk with it, it's not worth it. That's exactly what we said back in 2020. We're like, Marvel is going to do a little fiddling. They're going to mess around a little bit and see what works and see what doesn't, but they're going to gravitate toward what works. So that was the plan. And he's kind of saying that was the plan. But then he says, quote, what we also ended up focusing on because of Disney Plus was expansion. And it's that expansion that led people to say, it used to be fun, but do I really have to know everything about all of these, quote unquote? And then he says something which I know you're going to glom onto because it is something you have criticized Kevin for a lot, which is he talks about the process by which things were greenlit. And he tosses in there like a reference to everyone in the room is like a super fan. And so it makes it almost impossible to say no when your parent company wants you to do more. But he throws a line in there where he says, he's describing the different shows. He's like, we have a chance to make Miss Marvel? Of course. And then he goes, you mean Oscar Isaac wants to be Moon Knight? Of course. And that's the quote where I was like, that's Kevin's fault in this.
Mahershala Ali wants to be Blade? Of course.
He fell for the inbound call from people who wanted a piece of the empire, and he couldn't say no to the big name.
What have you been saying here from the Nerd Jet Report? For years, if you've been here, we gave you a glimpse into the future, and now it's being confirmed.
He admits that the agents reaching out on behalf of certain stars, it was like he couldn't turn away. So I'm actually going to leap forward to this point before we go to because Variety asks him about, what do you think? Charlize Theron as Clea, Harry Styles as Star Fox, Brett Goldstein as Hercules. And they ask him kind of like, so what's going on with those characters? And to get a sense of where Kevin has come around to, but he basically makes a reference to Tim Blake Nelson from The Incredible Hulk not coming back until Brave New World as an analogy for when you might see these characters again. And he says, quote, let's talk again in 12 years and see who actually came back, end quote.
He got Hollywood. He got.
But the good news is that's the first time he's admitted it publicly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's now saying,
those days are over.
I'm not going. He's like, you know what? In another world, in another day, I have the option because we did that scene, but that's not going anywhere. That's a distraction from where I need to get us to. And honestly, admitting that mistake is half the battle. If you try to force Charlize Theron into Doctor Strange 3 just because, that is a mistake. The better decision creatively is to admit there was a mistake, to have her in the credit scene and just move on.
Good for you, Kevin. You're back in my good graces for at least admitting it.
That's a key thing. And he even says, I forgot, this is the other quote. The writer is basically saying, this is a Variety's quote. The reporter responded, the inclusion of those characters indicates some promise they would return at some point. Kevin Feige's response was, do you want to see them again? Again, I respect when you do the mea culpa publicly. I thought that was a pretty big moment publicly for Kevin to basically say, almost like a warning shot to agents around Hollywood. And not that the agents are really calling these days, because like the Marvel brand has been tarnished, but they're like, I'm not here to do that for you. I'm not here to get your client over anymore.
Stop calling. Now we can get back to what it used to be about. Finding the right characters, the right stories, the right thing for this universe, or for the future of this brand.
And I think Fantastic Four was a good step, right? Fantastic Four was like Pedro Pascal has become the man of the moment, but they caught him a little bit before that when they cast him, a couple years ago. So I thought they did a pretty good job casting, and they weren't focused on the biggest name they could get to play each individual part. So I'm hopeful for the X-Men in particular that as these casting rumors crystallize, that will be the focus.
Yeah. This is good. This is actually good. Now I can't wait now we can definitely get in the conversation later on after we see the results. Again, this is the turning point of the superhero genre, it seems.
Second main point, cost. I thought this was very important. This is Variety's quote. Marvel has changed course on at least one major aspect of films, their cost. After budgets began to balloon following Endgame, the studio started grinding down the budget in 2023. Feige says Marvel's films from Deadpool and Wolverine through Fantastic Four have, quote, been upwards of 1/3 cheaper than they were 2 years before that. To the point, this I thought was really interesting. Feige said Marvel executives met with the team behind The Creator, including director Gareth Edwards, to find out how that was made for such a staggeringly low budget. Feige, I think everybody is in that state of mind regarding belt tightening. It has to get better. Is AI going to help us do that? That's an interesting nugget. I don't know. End quote. Cheaper. So the Avengers movies are going to be these next two Avengers movies are going to be the last two that are the throwaway, right? That's the old system. We got to get this through. They're probably going to lose money, even if it makes like 1.8 billion. But like, they just need to get those off the board. Everything else is going to be like 100, 150, like old school.
Dare I say 75, 80, depending on the character?
You know what that also dovetails with? The comment about no more A-listers. Because what are A-listers?
More money, more money, more money.
Yeah, you saw the stat in Superman, right? Did you see the stat on salaries?
Yeah.
So James Gunn got paid $15 million to direct. And by the way, he also got money for being a writer and a producer.
More money, more money, more money.
Nicholas Hoult was the most expensive cast member. How much did he get paid? $2 million. You know how much Corn, Sweat, and Brosnahan got? $750,000 each. You know how much The Rock got paid for Black Adam up front?
$1 billion.
I think it was like $50 million.
Craziness.
How much can you use in budget if you're paying so you paid Lex Luthor, Superman, and Lois Lane a combined $3.5 million versus paying Dwayne Johnson 50? I bet you can use that $47 million to make your movie better. So that's why you're not going to see as many A-listers. You're going to see people who are hungry for the part, who are up and coming. They're going to bet on their, ability to perceive that these are the right people for the parts, and they're cheaper.
And in another 20 years, we'll be talking about the same thing again.
But the thing, Marvel used to make stars. They didn't have the stars come in already baked.
But if you think about how Marvel first began, I mean, the names that we were popping up, they weren't like huge names. Some of them were, obviously, some people like Robert Downey Jr. been in the game for a while, but he was like, you don't know. But they did it because he was the right guy. Chris Hemsworth, the right guy. Chris Evans, you've heard the stories of how many people read for them.
Yep. Nobody heard of Chris Hemsworth. We didn't know who that guy was when he got the part. I mean, honestly, the more famous people came later. I mean, the more famous people came later in the supporting roles, right? Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Mark Ruffalo, they were the more accomplished actors, but they came in smaller roles. And that kept happening, right? Nick Fury, Sam Jackson was a huge name, but, he had a tiny part to start. Anthony Hopkins shows up in Thor.
But there was a mix and match in terms of supporting it was in support and the betterment of the movie. And those are decision making that need to be had, not just putting names in a bucket and say do it.
I buttered up Kevin a little bit. I got to knock him down a peg. Variety asked him about the Kang situation. I'm calling BS on this whole response. First off, you can say Jonathan Majors' name. It's okay. He refuses to say his name. I'm like, Kevin's got some weird, like, when you get on the wrong side of him, like with the Ed Norton thing, he has some weird tics sometimes. And I'm like, this is one where it's like, Variety says Major's name a bunch, and then Kevin he refers to him as like Kang or the actor. Like, he just won't say his name. I think it's weird. But he tries to claim that the move to pivot to Downey and Doom was already underway before Major's legal troubles hit.
You ain't got to lie, Craig. You ain't got to lie.
Nah, dude, Kevin.
Quote, he says, we had started to realize, this is back in 2023, that Kang wasn't big enough, that he wasn't Thanos, and there was only one character that could be that, because he was that in the comics for decades and decades. We started talking about Dr. Doom before we officially pivoted from Kang. In fact, I had started talking with Robert, meaning Downey, about this audacious idea before Ant-Man 3 even came out, end quote. Stop it. We heard all the reports. You built the universe around Majors. Like, you were all in on this guy because he was crushing it on screen.
And if you could do Age of Ultron, you can do a Kang Dynasty, because that's one of their foes. That's one of the Avengers foes. You can do an Avengers movie with Kang. So don't try to minimize the character.
I think it's also a cheap shot at Majors, quite honest. And listen, Jonathan Majors did some stuff that I'm not here to defend personally at all. But let's not get it twisted. The reason why you pivoted is because the profitability of your universe and the quality of your product was sinking across the board. That's why you pivoted. Don't make it seem like it's Kang's fault creatively. It wasn't. It wasn't. Did Quantumania fail because Jonathan Majors wasn't big enough as the villain in the movie? No. The movie is not good. Like, and it's like you went to Downey because you were desperate.
Help me, please.
Man Upstairs and Iger is recycling sequels to every IP he's got because he's seeing across the board people are rejecting Disney product, Disney agenda, Disney everything. So he's like, great, Frozen 3, Frozen 4, like he's Moana 2, like, and then he says to Kevin, fix Marvel, get the OGs back, whatever it takes. That's what happened. Why are you trying to say like it's Kang's fault because audiences didn't think the villain was big enough? Stop.
They certainly thought he was big enough at the last episode of Loki. That was the
riding
top of the
high.
town.
Yeah, you were still riding
was the
high as a
talk
universe.
of
People,
the town.
your first couple shows, you had the first couple shows, you had momentum with WandaVision. Falcon and Winter Soldier had some moments, and then Loki blows the top off with the Kang reveal. People were in on that.
And you blew it! You blew it.
And then, you know, this is, I want to give him his other negative, and then I come back to some future projects. The Marvels. Okay. He tries to claim the reason the Marvels didn't work is because, quote, they saw Captain Marvel from a $1 billion movie, but the other two characters from TV shows, so that's too much homework, so I'm going to skip it, end quote. He's trying to claim the movie is underrated. It's just that people had to do too much homework on the Iman Vellani character and sort of the Photon character and the Rambo character, and therefore they ignored the project. Which is like, you are the same guy who said them being on screen together is just as impactful as the Avengers being on screen together for the first time in 2012.
It's on tape, Kevin.
There is something about that movie that you are blind to. And here's the something. It's not a good movie.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
It's the low point commercially and creatively of the MCU.
I don't know. Like, it would be tough to have a conversation with Kevin with him trying to convince me anything otherwise. I'll be like,
yeah, like I will give you your
Kevin,
flowers for all of the great entertainment you've given me. I am not going to give you a free pass when you give me garbage.
Yeah, yo. Why you haven't watched The Bear? You see how the stress level to bring you a chicken dinner?
Thunderbolts. Quote on Thunderbolts. I feel a little validated in this quote. I gotta admit, Pablo, because I kind of feel like Kevin's admitting he wishes this was a TV show. They asked him about the fact that Thunderbolts got the best reviews Marvel received in years, but only grossed 380 million globally. Kevin's quote, I think this is actually true, and this is why I bring this up. Thunderbolts, I thought, was a very, very good movie, Feige said, but nobody knew the title, and many of the characters were from TV shows. So some audiences still had the feeling of, I guess I had to have seen those other shows to understand who this actually is. Now, if you actually did go see the movie, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. And we try to make the movie so that's not the case. But we still have to make sure the audience understands that, end quote. I think he's right. I think we talked about it in our review. There's too many, these characters were too far down the line. And a lot of them had never been on a big screen before. And therefore, I do think there was this sort of like, whether it's good or not, I just don't care about these people to spend 2 hours and spend money with them. Hence, maybe it should have been a series because it was a good movie. And there's actually stuff in there that I would not have minded seeing expanded into episodes. I felt a little validated when he said this.
Imagine going through an episode of each of them living in their daily lives.
And it is a good movie. He's right.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, I think he's sort of admitting they kind of got the medium wrong.
Yeah.
Or they chose the wrong characters to make that movie with. Either one of those is fair. All right, you want to do future?
Sure.
Let's start with the big one. Reboot.
I think he calls it reset.
He says reboot is a scary word, but he confirms Secret Wars will serve as the reset or reboot for the MCU. Reboot can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Reset, singular timeline. We are thinking along those lines, and the X-Men is where that will happen next, end quote. So everything that's been rumored is some form, fashion is going to happen. Secret Wars is going to. And then we're going to start over with no multiverse, which is one linear path with obviously, characters like Fantastic Four, but X-Men in particular being brought into that.
X-Men, the animated series, X-Men 97, we'll see glimpses of Captain America, Iron Man. We'll test the temperatures with these. We'll give these other characters auditions to see if people have the appetite to see them again, and then you know what I'm saying. You'll get those Easter eggs.
X-Men 97, I think 100% will play out in live action from that standpoint, which is we will dispense with the backstory. We will assume you know who this is when they make their random appearance. In the case of Iron Man, you don't even need a new actor. He can just be in the suit doing a couple things and be off screen. And he says, here's your quote: Amy Pascal and David Hyman are searching for a new James Bond now. David Cornsweet, he's the new Superman, and he was awesome. That, meaning recasting the same character, will always be the case. Feige acknowledged the stars who retired their original MCU roles like Downey and Evans have made it difficult to imagine anyone else in their shoes, but it is not an impossible task. Quote, I think it's hard for anybody to do that when an actor has done such a great role, but they asked, how are they ever going to replace Sean Connery as James Bond, right? End quote. And his point is they did it over and over again. He is telling you when the X-Men arrive, it is game on. You don't know when, you don't know where, but he feels liberated to have Steve Rogers, to have Tony Stark, to have these people just drop in and start to appear with new actors when he wants. That is happening. There is your confirmation.
Things are getting good. Things are getting interesting. Things are getting exciting to see what this new MCU 2.0 looks like.
Don't you think that's such a huge advantage? We've been talking about like how nice it's been that Superman doesn't have the origin story. And even like in Fantastic Four, the origin story is basically a television montage. Like, I think it's liberating. The work Downey and Evans and Hemsworth and those guys have done with those characters has been so cemented in popular culture that you don't have to do it again. That you can just skip right to the new actor with the new take on the role, and we're caught up. You get the right people. You cast the right people. I don't want to. We'll never forget the originals, but we've seen with Batman, with the Joker, with so many of these characters, new take. There's always room for new good takes.
I mean, James Bond obviously is the perfect example, man. Sean Connery is still perhaps one of the best.
But I mean, like Daniel Craig is going to have a place in the Hall of Fame of James Bond because he found a new lane, and he is made for a generation of people. He is their Bond. Make no mistake. It all goes to like, hey, you're simplifying things. You're getting back to basics. You're focusing on less star power, the right kind of stories, keeping it tight, keeping it linear. That is going to win in the long. If you can do that consistently, that will win audiences in the long run. Mahershala Ali is still attached to Blade.
Of course, because they don't got nobody else, yeah.
He said there's been multiple iterations, at least 2 that were period pieces. There were multiple iterations that were modern day, but he says Blade is now settled as a modern day story, and he won't say anything else because I don't think they have anything else.
They don't got anything else, yo. They don't got nothing. They don't have anything to really propel and show some advancement into the possibility of making this movie. I think this is Ali and Kevin playing chicken and see who's going to tap out first. Either you're going to give me the role or I'm going to leave the role. But there's going to be some sort of language used to sort of go their separate ways.
Well, let's be straight. The only difference between the Ali situation and him basically swearing off Charlize Theron, Harry Styles, Brett Goldstein, and all those guys is what? It's that Kevin brought Mahershala on stage in public himself. So the egg is much more on his face from that standpoint than it is for the other ones where it's like, all right, we'll give you a cutscene. It's a little easier to move on from that than a big, here's the hat, here's the announcement. He's got the last surprise role at the end of this panel. I think that's part of the hang up here. I really do. I think Kevin, with what we're hearing elsewhere about what he wants to do, I don't think Mahershala Ali is a relic of the Oscar Isaac wants to be Moon Knight. Of course, Mahershala Ali is a relic of that, and Kevin's kind of saying I'm over that. So I think I don't know why he chooses to say that he's still attached, other than to basically put the ball in Mahershala's court, saying you quit. You be the one to walk away so that I don't have to do it. I think that's kind of all that's going on.
Yeah, let's see what Kevin is going to, because there's a time crunch. There's a time crunch now.
There's one other aspect of this which I consider, which for that they do want to do Blade or they do want to do Midnight Suns, but they don't want to dump Mahershala Ali at the moment because this Variety article brings up this point. This is Variety, and then I'll give you Kevin's quote. Since the massive success of Black Panther, Marvel made a concerted effort to produce projects centered around women, people of color, and LGBTQ characters, including Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Marvels, Brave New World, on television, WandaVision, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, Echo, Agatha All Along. Some of these projects have been successful, but many have not, commercially or critically. More to the point that with Marvel's decision to dramatically reduce output, it's unclear what kind of future many of these characters have in the MCU, if any at all. And pressed on this question, Feige appeared unconcerned. Quote, Marvel represents the world outside your window. I've always said it, before DEI and woke became a thing, and after DEI and woke became a thing. Are we after? I don't think so. And then singled out Iman Vellani as, quote, one of the greatest bits of casting we've ever done, and I can't wait to see her somewhere, end quote. There is an aspect of Blade where I think shuttering Blade right now, after what this article lays out, looks bad too. So they would rather transition. They'd rather
Definitely.
have Mahershala's out, here's
So
our
you
new
can't
Blade, but Blade is still happening, than to cancel Blade publicly a la Batgirl and have all that come at them. Theory. That's what I'm wondering. Young Avengers. Quote, potentially, he said. Here's the interesting thing, though. In that case, it comes down to best story and where is the best alchemy and who would be fun to see them with. Each other, because that's what Young Avengers are, but also mixing it up more. End quote. He's talking about, is this a movie or is this TV? And he's saying, I don't know. Could be either. It's TV.
But if it's a movie, it's that one-off movie set far in the future and not in the, I don't know.
It's TV. Make it Beverly Hills 90210 MCU. It's TV. I think they have a better shot, honestly, if they make it TV,
I don't know.
of getting that audience that it's primed for.
Possibly, I mean, Titans was good.
Yeah. That's what I say. I mean, I don't think the 902, I say that only half tongue in cheek. I mean, I'm like, look at the ratings of that show in the 90s. Like Dylan, Brandon, like those guys were Kelly, like they were like the names people knew if you were a teenager. So Miles Morales. This was actually a very open response and I thought was interesting. Quote, that is nowhere. And he said, until Sony completes the Miles trilogy with 2027's Beyond the Spider-Verse, we've been told to stay away, end quote.
Don't even bring it up.
900 characters, Pablo. 900 characters.
Almost a guaranteed $1 billion possibility every 6-7 years. So they're not getting rid of that.
I think that's it. I think the fact is
yo.
that role is so
Don't even,
big and such a big deal. I think he wanted to get out front very publicly and be like, this is for the internet. With the rumor, there is no rumor mill. There's not even a conversation until 2028. This is not, you hear any rumor about this, it didn't come from us and it's BS. He rarely is this open about something not happening. He always leads like, well, you never know. Well, you could see. For him to say it's a zero, it's a zero. Yeah. Like that must be like, he must have brought it up on a call on like, and Sony and Tom, they just hang up the phone. They're like, that's it. This call's over. Actually, that's what Bill Belichick's girlfriend.
Not talking about this.
No.
No.
All right. I say this is the last one. This is the WWF WCW. He celebrates Superman.
Okay.
Feige highlights two things about Superman where he says Superman's great evidence that that superhero fatigue is overrated. He's like, look what it's doing. It's reinvigorated people. And then he says, I love the fact of James dropping you into the story. He's like, don't know who Mr. Terrific, he's a quote, don't know who Mr. Terrific is? Too bad. Like, you'll figure it out. End quote. Again, I think that's a clue. That's what he's going to do with Steve and Tony. And he's kind of hinting at that. He likes that. But here's where he hits back. Remember, James Gunn has told us what? he will not greenlight a movie unless he has a complete script. Pivot to, before I give you Feige's response, remember Rebecca Romijn, original Mystique, who is in Avengers Doomsday? Someone asked her, "Are you done filming?" Her response, "I'm not quite sure, because that script, they haven't finished writing it yet." Cut back to Kevin Feige, where he defends why they do this. And he says, this is Variety, Feige took issue with the comparison between Gunn's mandate at DC and Marvel's approach and the idea that Marvel needs to radically alter how it makes projects. Quote, "We have never started a movie without some kind of script, and I've never been satisfied with a script that we've had. I've never been satisfied with a movie that we've released." But then he said, "I defend, quote, plussing projects at every turn as they're being made, a term of art referring to pushing for incremental improvement. Actors, both the ones that are playing these characters for the first or second time and the characters playing them for the 10th or 12th time, are the best in the world at it and know these characters so well. So if they have an idea, you want to listen and you want to adjust to it and you want to improve it. I would not change that." End quote. I know there are filmmakers who say, if you want to be part of my movie, just say the words and you stay here the entire schedule in case we need you. James, in my experience, isn't one of them. But maybe he is now. We have so many actors, we can't do that. We don't do that. We give people a window. We keep to that window. End quote. It's on. So he's saying, number one, our way is just fine. Thank you very much. We do like to tinker and we will keep tinkering. And two, James, you're full of, you do it our way too. The best part of the article. The best part of the article.
Yeah.
Because he's like, that's my friend. I love you.
Yeah.
But I ain't taking that. I ain't taking that from you.
I've got my mojo back.
Obviously, he's been around long enough to sort of, he's at the point of his life where he can do what he wants. He doesn't need to feel pressured to do it.
Oh, no. He has nothing to prove. He has nothing to prove. The Kevin that was on X-Men, the EP, the junior EP on X-Men who had a dream, he has realized the dream.
Yeah, but he's sticking to his guns as to how, listen, we made our success this way, and is there room for improvement? Of course. But we're going to still, if we find something that's going to make it better, because everybody likes better. Everyone likes better. Or we think everybody likes better, but we try it anyway because we believe it's better. So Kevin, I think, is fired up for, because listen, Brian, he was a part of the X-Men, the old X-Men. He probably didn't have a lot to say. He probably got a lot of coffee, but now this is full circle. The gloves are off. And he has to make this the best thing we've ever seen with regards to the X-Men.
Oh, yeah. It's his last act. Because he does say in the article, by the way, I think he'll go longer than this, but he's up for contract in less than 2 years. He puts that in the article. Just file that away, folks. The Kevin Feige contract negotiation in 2 years when they're trying to launch the X-Men and have reset the universe. Just kind of, why say that? Thought it was interesting. Putting that out there. You know what that is? That's like a reminder to the company. I can do it. I haven't done it, but I could go elsewhere. He basically says, like, I hope to be making big movies for people forever.
No.
And he said, Marvel's a great place for me to do that right now. He's negotiating right now. Think about that comment to Gunn. As I said, I think these are also comments being made to the agents, to the young talent, to the up and coming talent, because there's not enough room in the schedule for these actors to just be going back and forth and playing a ton of roles. And we talked about DC has gotten some real wins, right? Like Cornsweat, Brosnahan, I think even Holt surprising to the upside, Aaron Pierre. Like, there's people on the board at the DCU who don't really have time to be, just be the new Captain America, right? That's a huge responsibility. So once you grab one of those actors, they're sort of off the board for the next 10 years as it comes to this IP. I think that's what he's really speaking to. He's like, look, don't throw mud at our way. Our way got us billions that you haven't printed yet. Don't you forget. And you were a part of that, and you did it just the way that's what he's really talking about. They're really going at it for who's going to play these parts over the next 10 years. And James Gunn's like, look at my exciting cast of characters. And Kevin's like, you get to be Cyclops. You get to be the new Wolverine. You get to be the new Cap. Like, I got a roster too that will attract you.
We did that already. And I'm about to
With
show
much
you
bigger
again.
success.
Yes.
It's going to be like, and I don't love this movie, but it's going to be like Adrian in the hospital bed.
Win.
When?
What are we waiting for?
That's what we're talking. That's the fans. What are we waiting for?
Yeah, yo. Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting. We're not going to get as much product as we did in the past, but we're still going to get better product, which is when it's worth waiting for, is worth waiting for.
Look at the Odyssey and tell me that waiting isn't the right way. People buying tickets for that a year out and reselling them at markup. There is value in waiting. You will get the money back. You will get the money back. Because you'll get the event.
Yeah.
You will eventize the movies again. You will eventize the results. Like, you don't think introducing the X-Men is not an event? You don't think the movie where a new Tony Stark Iron Man just drops in for a random scene is not an event? You crazy.
If you thought cameos was a thing, the cameos, how they do it is going to be different here. How they do things is going to be different. And I'm looking forward to seeing how different it is in terms of quality, Brian, and how they do these introductions of all these other characters that we don't have to do a movie for, but we can certainly go into an Avengers film to see how this all looks with these new guys playing it.
Oh.
You can go and do an Avengers film. You don't have to do Iron Man. You
And
don't
that's
have
the
to
thing
do
that they're,
Captain America.
again,
You can just
James
go
Gunn
ahead
and
and do an
Kevin are
Avengers
looking
film.
at each other, right? It's like, so we saw with the Creature Commandos, Batman shows up in animated version for one frame, internet loses its mind. If he shows up for one frame in any capacity in Clayface, the internet's going to explode. The internet's going to explode, right? So then it's like, then Marvel comes back and like drops Cap or drops Iron Man in the right way, in the right scene for just a little bit to let you know they've returned. Like, that's it, man. That is the competition at the highest level that we want to see. Like, we win if that's what they're doing. As you said, cameos because of the actor, we don't have time for. Cameos because of the character, all day.
We care about the characters, yo. So to see Iron Man pop up without taking off and not even revealing it, and Spider-Man and all these other characters in masks, and you don't know who it is, but you just know that's Daredevil.
Yeah.
And you can see that along you can get people going crazy.
So it was a great interview. It's in Variety. There's one in Variety, one in Hollywood Reporter. I recommend you read the whole article. There's a lot of stuff, even that we didn't cover, but I think it is the official, congrats to both studios, but the arrival of Superman, the arrival of Fantastic Four, and the way James Gunn is speaking and the way Kevin Feige is speaking, I mean, Vince McMahon, Eric Bischoff, I mean, it is like, we have arrived. Like this, this could be I know the Infinity Saga will probably always be the original. That'll be I don't know, what do you want to call that? The Silver Age of, I don't know what that's the original, but this could be the Golden Age with these two guys at the helm, hopefully living up to the potential of what the next 10 years could be. Like, I mean, the box office is what's going to be, but like creatively, this could be the best place the genre's been in. And I would have, at the start of the year, I would have taken long odds that we'd be having that conversation after these two movies. But here we are, feeling good.
Yeah, man. Certainly the excitement is building to see what is next from both houses. Definitely now that we see Kevin Feige in more outspoken and challenging position now. There's the pressure of just being good. It's not because it's just Marvel. Now it has to be good because the other guy is supposedly saying that he's doing it a different way and it's going to be better. The script, all these things, yet our way, what we've done, has gotten the genre to where it's at now. So now things have to change because now you have competition. Now you have comparisons because before there was one thing that was rejected. still had his followers, and MCU was still at the top of his game, and everybody was trying to replicate that. You saw all Jupiter's Legacy, you saw all these other things. That genre spawned a whole bunch of other stuff. And now the stuff that they've given us hasn't been as good, which has given the good things the light that they deserve because of how good they are. The
Yeah.
Boys.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think we're a couple years away from the full on, in the sense of we are still working through some legacy product. Like I consider Doomsday and Secret Wars legacy product, right? So from the Marvel standpoint, until we cross Secret Wars, that's the bright line where after which everything is new. Up until then, it's a mix. Even in the DC side, Matt Reeves' Batman is legacy. Like that's a legacy product. I think the seminal moment is DCU Batman. That's where their line, right? Superman's like the prelude. Supergirl is part of the prelude. DCU Batman is probably the line where it kind of just takes off into everything new and different. But yeah.
What Winter Soldier did for them.
Exactly. That's what both these studios are looking for. They're looking for the Winter Soldier Guardians summer. That's it. The moment where something of promise becomes must see every time out.
So yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of what Kevin has said as of late in response to James Gunn, in response to the future of the MCU and the superhero genre. There is definitely a sense of competition in the air, and we like seeing competition. So hopefully we get to see the best from both houses, and we can debate all day about what better and how they did that and whatever, because they're all good conversations. We'll all be privy to that sort of environment once they get rolling with the new stuff. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of all that, and just hit that like and subscribe and comment in the comment section below, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.